This week on It's Too Wordy, tell me, She-Bat, does Satan dance the funky chicken neath the harvest moon?
What?
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of the It's Too Wordy comic book podcast.
Off the rails already.
The podcast that we're... Thanks, Nick. The podcast where three buddies sit and discuss comic books from their childhood and today. I'm Kirk, and I'm joined by...
Ryan. Nick.
How you guys doing?
Good. Yeah.
Good.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, it was a good comic book weekend.
It was. Had a lot of fun. So this week we are going to be starting Patriotic Month, because little holiday Thursday. This week we will be discussing Captain America number 319.
Alright, so with 319, so this was a 3-issue storyline, 318 through 20. And we wanted to focus on 319. And this is Captain America, and apparently he's cruising the world, or the United States now, in his specialized
Creeper van.
Right. He's got his phone line.
The Captain America phone line.
Yeah, the people can call if they need help, and he'll go wherever.
And he gives out candy.
This is also the time where Marvel had no idea what to do with him. So they're like, let's make him a comic book artist. Let's make him have a phone line.
And he did the art for Captain America
Yep.
for Marvel.
Yep, he did.
That's what he did in his downtime.
Yep.
It's nice to see they do something besides just exercise.
So pretty much there's not much going on in this except for the Scourge is going around Marvel and killing people, like killing villains. And this is the biggest issue where he just comes into a bar that's called the Bar with No Name and mows down, I don't know, what, like 30 guys?
Yep.
15.
15.
I think there's
It seemed like a lot.
15 or 16 of them or something like that.
Yeah, I have a whole list of the guys that he killed throughout Marvel Comics, and it was a long-running thing that they did.
Yes, the Bar with No Name is a hangout for criminals, apparently D-list criminals.
D-listers.
And the Scourge is going around starting to kill people, and there is a guy named Firebrand who is trying to rally the troops to, go out and protect each other. So he's trying to do a secret meeting on a Saturday night in the Bar with No Name. And so he's at this bar recruiting people. As Captain America is cruising around and checking his hotline constantly, one of the Serpent Society got hit. So the Serpent Society starts going out after this guy as well. Captain America ends up talking to one of the bad guys, and the bad guy's like, hey, I want to meet with you because somebody's going around killing us.
Diamondback? The girl with the diamonds on her neck?
Yeah, because they kind of started working together.
Mm-hmm.
And so Captain America went and talked to Fool Killer, who is in a mental asylum, and he's nuts.
Yeah.
So nothing made sense of it. Oh, and that's where he meets Diamondback, because Diamondback was there to check it out too. They agree to kind of pair up and figure out who this is together. And for whatever reason, Captain America thinks it's a good idea to get into a ride and fly off into aerospace and track down this guy or whatever. And she starts trying to seduce him. Firebrand brings in a bunch of guns to the thing to prevent, if the bad guy shows up, Scourge shows up, so he can take him out. And he's talking to the bartender about it. We get a little bit of backstory on Diamondback, and essentially they're running through a field, and Captain America's running through a field, running away from Diamondback. Here's a gunshot, turns back thinking Scourge. It was just some farmer who thought it was a UFO and shot Diamondback. So he gets her to a hospital.
Because he's a good guy.
And we got the list of the characters right here.
Okay.
And so in the Bar with No Name, we have Shellshock, Mindwave, Hellraiser, Cyclone, Ringer, Steeplejack, The Grappler, Rapier, Mirage, Jaguar, Turner D. Sentry, The Vamp, Birdman, The Hijacker, Commander Kraken, Letha, and the Cheetah.
Jesus, it's no wonder Scourge killed everybody.
Right. Yeah, and it was pretty easy. He just walked in there with like a Muscle Beach t-shirt and a semi-automatic weapon and just wasted them all.
A lot of useless villains in there.
I have heard of all of these after I read this book.
Me too.
Yeah.
I had never heard of them before.
Never heard of him before that. I was a little more interested in learning about Turner D. Century, though.
Yeah.
That sounded fun. So Firebrand's trying to motivate them, tell them about how they've got to do something. They all start talking over each other. And all of a sudden, the bartender has a suggestion and then blows them all away.
I knew it was going to be him.
But he is a master of disguise, so we don't really know what he looks like still. And it goes into the next issue where we actually find out who the Scourge is the first time.
Yep.
So let's go through the list of Scourge victims, right? So the Enforcer got killed in Iron Man number 194. Miracle Man, Thing number 24. Hate Monger got killed in Secret Wars number 2. Megatack got killed in Thor 58. Melter got killed in Avengers 263. Titania got killed in Thing number 33. Basilisk got killed in Fantastic Four number 29. The Human Fly got killed in Amazing Spider-Man 276. Death Adder got killed in Captain America 318.
That's who got how the Surface
Yep.
Society got in.
The Wrench got killed in Captain America 394. Black Abbot got killed in Captain America 394. The Millions of the Power Broker got killed in 385. The Red Skull got killed, but this was Albert Malik. So this is the second Red Skull. Got killed in Captain America 347. The Wraith got killed in Spider-Man number 278. Blue Streak got killed in Captain America 318. Blowtorch got killed in U.S. Agent number 2. So this was a long-running storyline through all of Marvel Comics at the time. So it was pretty, for this issue to be like $1 in the dollar, in the dollar bin, it's kind of important because this is where Marvel was like, let's hire Mark Gruwald to take out our useless villains.
Kill
Now,
them all.
did he write all those?
No, but I think he had the idea to get rid of them all. I'm not sure if he wrote everyone, but yeah, I mean, that's insane.
What did we talked about it the other day, and we're like, it's like the third biggest mass murder in
Comic
Marvel-
books?
in comic books.
No, I just like the story because when I was a little kid looking at the Marvel universes, and there was always that list of Scourge victims, and it was just like, Jesus Christ, I want to read that book. And I started collecting in 6th grade, and I finally found this issue when I was 25.
Wow.
So it took me a long time to find it. And now I can find it everywhere.
I thought it was a fun story.
It was.
I'm not a huge Captain America fan. I enjoy the character, but as far as reading, it seems like it's always the same kind of thing over and over and over again. And he really didn't do a heck of a lot.
Not
No.
not in this one.
He is clearly not the world's greatest detective.
No, he's kind of a blunt object most of the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
They send him in to bash people, and they're like, go destroy this.
Yeah, and apparently this all took place in Ohio, because I remember one of the characters saying, "Why are you in Ohio? They need me, they can just shoot a Quinjet to me."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll be back on the weekends. No, it's a good story.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And there were a lot of characters I did not know, but after you tell me they're D-list characters, it makes sense.
D-list. More like Z-list.
And it's kind of like the beginning of Captain America's love affair with Diamondback, because
Right.
they're together for quite a while after this. And it's kind of nice to see him without a Carter.
Yeah.
What?
What?
All right.
So what did you rate it?
What would you rate it?
For nostalgia for me, it's probably a 4.5.
3.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 3.5.
I think mine was the fun of the hunt for it for that long time.
Yeah.
That's always a good time.
All right. So,
No new read this week.
no new read.
We couldn't
Because-
find anything that looked interesting.
It looked absolutely trash. Didn't really want to read any of it. Well, let's move on to random reads.
It's going to be a long section today.
Yep. I'll go first. The first book I'm going to discuss is Uncanny X-Men number 201, tagline, Who Will Lead? And this is the one where they come back from Asgard, and Madeline and Cyclops have their baby, Nathan Christopher Summers.
Who?
Who? And,
Isn't that Cable?
yes.
Okay.
It's Cable. Yep, that's Cable.
It was like the biggest rumor going around in that time. Like, is this when Cable came out and his name was Nathan, and they were like,
That was like...
"Is this the baby?"
And then they revealed, like, this one was in 1986, and they finally revealed that he was a Summers in, like, 92 or 90,
When did New Mutants 87 come out?
1989.
Yeah. So after that, years after that,
Years after, it took years, and then that was the big thing, is Cyclops, and Cyclops was like, is this mine? I don't remember him looking like that. Why is he older than me?
Then they retcon that
Yeah.
and put them in the future along with him.
Now, isn't X-Man?
Ooh.
Is Nate Gray.
The
He's the alternate. He's the
Yeah.
Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse is
Okay.
son of Jean Grey and whoever. I don't know who was Wolverine. Because they were dating in the Age of Apocalypse, but I don't think it was them.
I don't know.
They never really
That
explained.
was a long time ago.
They never really explained.
Okay.
His relation.
Again, I'm not into the X-Men, so I don't.
No problem. So they're having this big reunion, and Nightcrawler, being the stud that he is before he became a priest, decides to start tickling Rachel to death, being goofy for some reason. I'm just looking at it going, why we didn't really need this right here. And then Madeline and Storm walk off to talk. Madeline, at this point, she doesn't like that Scott's away all the time when he's got a family. And so she's talking to Storm about how he wasn't there for the birth, and she was fine with that, but everybody else called to ask her how she was doing, how the baby was, everybody but Scott. So they're talking, and there's a real cool scene with Rachel holding Nathan, and she promises that she's going to change the future so he doesn't ever have to live in the timeline that she lived in. And they Psylink with each other, so they're bonded together by a Psylink. Then you click ahead, and the Starjammers make an appearance. Binary is in the Starjammers, and they're talking about how Professor X doesn't like being away from his students, and he doesn't know if he did right by abandoning and giving them to Magneto. What?
That was a mistake.
Yeah. And then,
Just like, why?
yeah, I'm going to trust him to the guy that was trying to kill all of us.
For like 30 years.
Yep.
It's not the first time. Or the last.
Nope.
Lilandra talks him down off the ledge and from jumping off the roof. You go to the school, and Cannonball, Sam Guthrie, is working on his term paper, and the computer goes on the fritz, and then they're playing baseball. The X-Men are busy playing baseball.
Is he from Kansas?
He gotta be from Kansas. They all talk
They all
like
talk
this.
like this.
They all talk like this, y'all. Enough said.
According to Frank Miller.
Ah, dumpling.
I never.
I declare.
You one hot piece of meat. And he looks outside, and you see Rogue, who apparently didn't get the memo that they were supposed to wear clothes, because she's in a swimsuit, and you can see her ass crack a little bit. Good job, whoever drew this. And Colossus decides to hit a home run.
With the baseball?
With the baseball.
No, with
To
Rogue.
clarify.
With Rogue.
And Rogue goes, I'll get it! And she takes off, and she flies up, and Air Force One just happens to be flying overhead at this point. And so Rogue kisses the window, and President Reagan's like, let's just pretend like this never happened. And Kitty Pryde walking back into the house, and Sam's like, I can't believe I lost my paper. And Kitty's like, don't worry, I can fix it in a jiffy. And they do like the little, Sam's got a crush on Kitty, so he's like all like, aw shucks, and hearts, and then there's a nice Captain Crunch
Captain Crunch, Spider-Man
crossover in here.
Almost as good as the Green Lantern KFC crossover.
Yep. And you fast forward to Madeline and Scott having an argument about never being around, and Storm interrupts, and she's like, I have a way to figure out who they're talking. The whole time they're talking about who's going to lead the X-Men. Storm doesn't have any powers at this point. She's lost her powers. And Cyclops is like, this should be easy. She doesn't have any. She says we need to have a battle in the danger room, and Cyclops agrees. And he kicks out Magneto and the mutants. They're doing their...
I don't think that's a good sign of a leader. Let's fight.
Let's fight it up. Yeah.
Okay, let's all do it.
Cyclops asks Doug Ramsey to come up with the program to have the duel in the danger room. And he basically tips it in Storm's favor.
Cheater.
Pretty much. He pretty much makes it to where they're on even ground, right? Because she doesn't have any powers, Cyclops has his, but it's like a close quarters battle. And she can hide and jump out of anywhere and get him, which she does. And They tussle. The X-Men are all up in the window taking bets on who's going to win. And Wolverine's all for Storm becoming the leader. Storm beats Cyclops by ripping his visor off of his head. She jumps out of some darkened corner, jumps up on him, and rips the mask off of him. And Scott knows that if he lets go, he'll destroy everything. So she outthought him.
Got a problem.
What's your problem?
Okay. So all Cyclops has to do is full beam the floor out of the danger room and get her stuck in the ground. She has no powers. She'd be in a pit and she'd have to give up.
And she's claustrophobic.
Right.
All he has to do is make a bunch of rubble.
So that's easy way for Cyclops to win.
But you got to remember he's got a kid and a wife, so his mind's not on.
Didn't sound like it was on him anyhow from the beginning of the issue.
On dueling him on the duel. So, he's a bad dad. Don't get me wrong.
He's always been a bad dad.
He's a bad father. Like the one guy who should have been like a good father was not a good father.
Well, he got trained how to be a dad by Mr. Sinister
and Professor X.
And Professor X. So
he got abandoned by both of them.
Right, and his dad. So he had an absent father, so he was just trying to be just like his dad.
Normally, sons try not to repeat the mistakes of their father, and he took it to a whole nother level. He puts his son in the future, basically ignores Rachel Summers for like 20 years, and then you skip, and it's the end. Cyclops says they're all wondering if he's going to quit. Cyclops hasn't said if he's going to do it, but I think the next issue he actually does end up quitting and walking away from the X-Men.
Is that the cover where he throws his uniform in a trash can and walks away in the alley?
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's Spider-Man.
And Starman. And there's at least
There's
4.
Yes, there's quite a few covers.
So, in the epilogue, you have Rachel Summers going to Jean Grey's parents' home. And she has a little, orb of Jean dressed up as the Phoenix. And it's like a picture. It's like a futuristic kind of picture thing. And she ends up adding herself to the orb so they have their granddaughter and their daughter in the same picture. Which I thought was pretty cool. Then we get the Watcher at the end for some reason. I can't remember. He talks about how he wants to interfere, but he never can, and all he can do is watch. And I'm like, well, no shit, you're the Watcher. For a long time, this is one of the books that I really wanted to have in my collection. Because it was Storm versus Cyclops in a duel. And I really liked this version of Storm. She's the Mohawk Storm. I would recommend it. It's a fun little read. It's one of those where it's like, they're always battling somebody. And they just took a break. And it showed, life at the school. And
so it's a one-off that
It's a one-off that, it just took a break because they just had the Asgardian Wars, Days of Futures Past, and then the Dark Phoenix Saga. There's 3 big ones in a row. So they were like, let's just throw in a fun little one-off issue. But it's really good. The next one, for all you Captain Marvel fans, is Uncanny X-Men number 269. This one is the story, She's Back, Rogue versus the original Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers.
Hasn't this always been kind of a battle that everybody keeps talking about?
This is
the one where all the assholes on the internet are like, I can't wait for Rogue to be in the MCU so she can beat the shit out of Ms. Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is why.
They're in Australia because they're still dead, right? They haven't come out that they're alive again. And Rogue is sleeping in the bed, and she has a nightmare, or you think she's sleeping in the bed, and she has a nightmare about Master Mold taking over somebody. And then you skip, and it's a gratuitous scene of my favorite X-Man. One of my favorite X-Men. She's actually in the bubble bath. And she's like, oh my, I do declare.
She's from Kansas, too.
Yep. And she's sitting there naked. She comes to, and she's, sitting there naked. And she's like, oh my God, where am I? She just appeared out of nowhere. So, instead of getting dressed, old Jim Lee made it to where she only put on a t-shirt. So the whole time she's walking around, and she's half naked.
Where'd she find the X-Men t-shirt?
Because apparently this is where the X-Men live, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I thought she just ended up in the middle of the street.
No.
And found an X-Men t-shirt in the middle of the street.
She's in her room in Australia.
Oh, okay.
And then she walks by a TV, and Valerie Cooper's on the air, who is the liaison between Freedom Force and the government at this point, and says that Mystique has been murdered. And if you know the storyline of Rogue, Mystique was her foster mom, took her in, and took care of her when her parents kicked her to the curb when her powers manifested.
Poor Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Kicked out. She's like, I just want this white girl, not this blue boy.
I think she felt bad for kicking Nightcrawler to the curb and decided to make amends with Rogue. So
Why couldn't she just make amends with Nightcrawler?
Because they didn't tell us at that point.
I know, but...
They retconned that shit.
Stupid.
They retconned that shit.
Beast is the dad, right?
Beast is the dad.
That was the rumor.
Yeah. Anyway, so she starts crying, and she grabs her costume and is running for the window, saying, "Yo, X-Men, we gotta assemble, and we gotta get going to find out who did this, right?" And she jumps out the window. She jumps out the window, and she realizes she can't fly. So she no longer has Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel's powers. Kind of weird, right?
It's kind of weird her t-shirt can stay up like that when she's falling out of a window.
Yeah, it doesn't show anything at all when she's jumping out of a window. You know, her ass doesn't come out.
It's form-fitting.
If it was you and
That's right. It's unstable molecules. It just form fits.
If it was anybody else, their shirt would be up over their head.
Maybe Tony Stark designed it.
Right, and apparently it goes up her ass crack, too.
Yeah. She finds out that the Reavers have taken over the house. The Reavers are the ones that murderous band of mercenaries. And he's like, "Well, hello." One of them's like, "Well, hello, you must be Rogue." Like, playing all ladies' man with them. So I'm like, okay, this is a cool comic. When's Ms. Marvel going to show up?
Well, first you gotta get Lady Deathstrike in there.
Yeah, you got to put Lady Deathstrike in here for absolutely no reason, because it doesn't have anything to do with the storyline going forward. And then Ms. Marvel shows up because they're going to shoot Rogue, and she takes out the Reavers. And then she's like, "You and I have unfinished business, Rogue." And Rogue's like, "Oh, hell." And she starts booking it. Because for some reason, Miss Marvel scares her. With good reason.
Imagine.
With good
Powerless versus Carol Danvers.
Carol Danvers.
I'm like, huh.
So she finds Gateway. She still has her touch powers. She just doesn't have Ms. Marvel's. And we find out now that the two have separated. Because Ms. Marvel was in her psyche. And when she got teleported back to Australia, they separated.
Okay.
And so she's running, and Gateway's under some kind of spell. She's trying to get away, so she kisses Gateway and absorbs his powers and teleports off to somewhere else.
Now, when she takes somebody's powers, does she have the capability? She knows what to do with those powers immediately?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's her power set.
I know she absorbs their powers and can use their powers, but I didn't know if it was like one of those, "Oh, I got a new toy, now I gotta read the instructions" kind of thing.
No,
I wish,
yeah. Hold on.
Can you imagine?
In a battle. Hold on.
Wait, but hold on. How do you do this? Shazam!
Hold on.
Nope.
Not there yet. Hold on, guys.
It's like that scene in Spider-Man 1
All
with
right.
Tobey Maguire when he's on the roof. He's like trying to figure out how his webs work. That's how Rogue should be.
And then you skip out into space, and it's another scene with the Shi'ar. And it's this masked guy who we found out who the masked guy is in issue number 276. And Lila Cheney is running away from said guy in the mask because she needs to get away from the murderous Shi'ar Empire Imperium. She escapes by jumping out the airlock. And they're like, okay, she's dead, whatever. And she's smiling. As she's floating in space, she's smiling. Because she can teleport no matter where she's at. So she jumps out into space and then teleports herself away to another planet. Then we find out where Rogue escaped to. She's in everybody's favorite land, the Savage Land. And then you get a nice little advert for Bonk's Adventure for the TurboGrafx 16.
Always wanted to play that.
Me too.
Never got it.
Me either.
Because that stupid system was so damn
It
expensive.
was like $1,000 back then. So imagine what it would cost today. With inflation and all that, that's a lot of money. And so then you skip to Moira McTaggart, and they have Polaris strung up. You find out now that she is now the Nexus for the Shadow King. So back in issue 269, Chris Claremont is already foreshadowing all the way to 278 because Mirror Island is the Shadow King where they fight the Shadow King.
Okay.
So he's already doing some
Building
for it. Ms. Marvel finds out by Legion makes an appearance because the Shadow King has possessed Legion, and Legion's dressed like a woman because Legion's always been crazy. Except he looks a little older than I thought he would be since he was a New Mutant, and he looks like he's got like a full like handlebar mustache, and he rips off his face, and it's the Shadow King underneath. And then you skip back to the Savage Land, and Rogue's like, I don't have any powers, but that's all right by me. I'll get by on my own and try to figure out a way to get back to the real timeline. Apparently, I didn't realize that the Shadow King was some kind of creepy lizard monster thing. 'Cause I just thought he was an astral projection, but this is the Shadow King. In this issue, he's like this rotting piece of, looks like shit.
looks like Parallax from Green Lantern movie.
And so he's trying to take over Carol Danvers, and she's resisting because she's, Ms. Marvel, and he said he gets off on how she's rejecting him, not letting him take over her, but he likes the challenge, and Polaris is thinking, I'm going to kill you, and all this stuff, but they really done Polaris wrong. She's always been weak. I'm like, when I found out she was the one that was captured, I was like, that's just wrong. All she wanted to do was love Alex, live a normal life. And so you skip ahead, and Rogue's trying to find her way off out of the Savage Land, and she gets attacked by a rotting Ms. Marvel because when they separated, one got all the life force, and one has to die. So she's trying to kill Rogue so she doesn't die. And they have an epic battle, and come to find out, when Rogue is in Ms. Marvel's presence, she still has her powers. So she picks up a tree and fucking throws it at her. And is just playing, fighting her. See her trying to choke her out. Ms. Marvel gets struck by somebody. Who could it be? Who could be helping Rogue? Is it the X-Men?
It's Billy Batson.
Is it Kazar? No, it couldn't be Kazar because he gets knocked out every third issue.
Marvel.
It's Marvel. Well, you're all wrong. It's Magneto.
Okay.
So this starts the love affair between Magneto and Rogue.
So I always thought that was a mental fight between the Ms. Marvel and Rogue fighting in her head. Why? Okay, so Magneto by now knows that Lorna Dane is his daughter. Why are you going to the Savage Land to save a mutant you don't like when your daughter is being attacked by the Shadow King?
Well, once again...
Yeah, bad father.
Bad father. Look what he did to Scarlet Witch. And Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So, this one, it's got one of my favorite X-Men, and it's got my favorite Avenger. And I like that it foreshadowed...
Dazzler and Jubilee.
Yes, I just love Dazzler. I'm more of a Boom Boom guy. Always have been. But I liked how it foreshadowed the story that was the first story crossover that I ever read, because I'd just gotten into comics at this point. So, that was pretty good. Then I read Machine Man, #1 of a 4-issue limited series. I found this at Half Price Books. What? And I got it for $1. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm more of an X-Men guy. Spider-Man. I was like, nah, we'll give it a shot, right? And I actually really dug this comic book. It takes place the year 2020. Yep, the year 2020. Now, let me ask you guys. We're coming up on year 2020. Do robots run the world?
Yes.
Do we live in a post-apocalyptic age?
They make our cars? Well, yes.
Seriously, though, every time I read these books about the future, the only one that had a somewhat pleasant outcome of the future was fucking Back to the Future 2, where we're flying in cars, and it's everything...
Well, that's what they said the future was going to be like back in the 50s and the 60s, in the advertisements. At some point, we're going to have flying cars. It was the Jetsons, is what it was.
Yeah, I know.
And
it just seems like it's
we've never hit that point.
So what this book is saying to me, because I absolutely enjoyed it, what this book is telling me is that we should have already had our nuclear apocalypse.
When was this published?
1984.
So 1984 to 2020, that's
36
years. At that point, I could see that being reasonable that robots would be taking over.
I get it. No,
and technically, I mean, if you think about it, robots have kind of taken over the world.
They have, but not to the point where...
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah. I was texting my mom the other day, and she said it's not going to be Skynet. It's going to be our cell phones because they autocorrect everything. They're going to cause the apocalypse.
Yep. Cats and robots are going to be taking over the world. They're plotting together.
Yep. But it takes place in 2020, and they're in a warehouse, and this robot's pushing around this crate. And
Is it the Indiana Jones crate?
Sure. And the robot comes across a box that's got a handwritten label on it. And so they deemed it as old and ancient, so they take it and they pitch it on Fire Island, which I've been to Fire Island, and I'm glad to hear that they're turning it into a dump in New York City. So the box is discovered by, forgive me, I don't remember the names, so we'll call him Brains. We'll call him Egon. His name is Brain, and he opens it up and he's like, "Oh, that's wicked awesome! It's like a human face for a robot." So they're like, "Cool," and then they get discovered by the Baneys, which are robots, and you can't be out stealing scrap from no the Banes Corporation. So they start fighting and they take out the robots, and then they escape, and her name is Sunset Bane, and she runs the Bane Corporation. She's like, "You guys failed, you let him get away, especially with this particular crate. We got rid of it for a reason, it was hidden." And then you skip ahead to their hideout, and Brain is putting together this android, and they get it put together, and they charge him up, and he actually works. And he says, "My name is Machine Man. Who are you people?" And so they tell him that he's woken up in an far-off place. And I like that their hideout's a McDonald's. That made me laugh. I was like, "Oh, cool, it's a McDonald's." Because, Ghostbusters is an abandoned Pizza Hut in Papillion, Nebraska. Right?
Yep.
It's in Papillion? Yeah.
Is it?
I don't know.
We never
discussed it, but
No.
The only abandoned Pizza Hut I could think of was
It's in
the one
Papillion,
in
Nebraska.
It's not there anymore. They tore it down, but that was the only one for a long time that was abandoned. So the Bane Corporation sends out these things called wreckers to find these guys because they need to get Machine Man back. And so Brain is working on Machine Man because he's like having problems functioning, and they get attacked. And for never reading Machine Man, right? It must have been like an 80s thing, because all superheroes are like shit talkers in the 80s, because he starts shit talking the robot he's fighting, and the robot is shit talking right back to him, like, "Oh, you're much more powerful than I thought." And they managed to escape again. I like how they call him MM. He's like, "I have questions. I have so many questions about what's going on." And earlier in the issue, they're talking about somebody who he was aligned with.
Jocasta in the Avengers?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the first issue, she shows up, and I'm like, "Ooh, plot twist. I need to get the second issue so I can find out what's going on." Ryan looked really excited that I was talking about this book.
Not that one.
I think it's the next one.
It's the next one?
It's the next one.
Okay, what's in the next one? Is that the one of Iron Man?
No.
No?
No.
That one.
That book.
No. What's cool about Jocasta is she was created by Ultron.
Okay.
Ultron made Hank Pym create him a wife,
So it was Jocasta.
and he put Janet Van Dyne's brain in her.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Is that the whole miniseries?
Uh-huh.
Can I borrow that one?
No. It's
Sure.
really rare.
Is it?
I don't know. But yeah, you can
No,
borrow it.
not right now.
And what's
because
really great
I
is
still
the,
have, like a ton of your books at home that I need to read.
The Barry Windsor Smith artwork that's in this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he gets a lot of credit anymore for being one of my favorite artists. I mean, he started out in Conan back in the day, and he did some X-Men stuff, and I just love his stuff. Like, his cover work is just amazing.
I had read an article that said that they're bringing him back.
They are.
So I'm excited. Are they going to make him updated, or are they going to keep him looking the same?
I hope they keep him kind of like that.
I hope I do too, because I like what he looks like. But knowing Marvel, they'll probably update him.
Read Next Wave, Agents of Hate.
And he first appeared in Marvel Comics 2001, a Space Odyssey comic.
Nice.
I think number 8.
Nice.
And it's just funny because it was out of a Jack Kirby 2001 Space Odyssey.
I didn't know what to expect when I picked this up. It's in great condition for...
That's the reason why you want to buy that book.
What issue is that?
I think it's issue 3 or issue 2 where Arno Stark shows up and he's the Iron Man of 2020.
Iron Man 2020.
Which is next year. and rumor that they're going to do something big next
I
year.
think it's issue 3.
You just ruined me getting them now.
What?
Because people listening are like, all right, let's go buy every issue we can find and speculate and drive it
You
through
have
the
until Monday.
Yep.
roof. That means I got to find them. I didn't know what to expect. It was like, I don't know. It's $1.
Yeah.
And I want to read the rest of it because it hit with me. I was like, this is pretty cool.
And I think what's weird is there was a line, now don't quote me on it, but there was a line of comics in Iron Man where it was Tony Stark's his brother. And his brother is Arno Stark, who is actually the genius, and Tony's not.
Tony's not the genius?
It was, I don't know, it was like 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I don't really remember it that well.
I'm going to take your word for it because I don't have any clue.
And it was just like, oh, okay, great. The other Stark brother, great.
I did read the second volume of Umbrella Academy, and that was awesome. So, once again...
Was that Umbrella Academy Dallas?
Yes. I read that one. I may like it even better than the original one, and I can't wait for the third one to come out, and I'm going to start watching the show. So, my final book is Darkhawk number 5.
About time he got recognized.
In this issue, Darkhawk wants to see what his face looks like, because I don't know the whole story, because this is issue 5, and I just jumped in. If somebody wants to give me a little synopsis.
So when he found I can't think of what the jewel's called,
It's
but
an amulet.
amulet. When he found this amulet, it turns him into this Darkhawk character. But he can't willingly take off the mask to see if he looks different.
Okay.
But he is able to take it off, and it freaks people out. So, like, he can't take it off to see himself, but he can take it off at an enemy and, like,
Put it back on. Jesus, you're going to make me throw up.
Right, something like that. And so it's kind of like an ongoing story throughout all of Darkhawk that he never gets to see what his face looks like. So it's kind of like that building suspense. What does he actually look like?
Yeah.
Type thing.
Thank you, Ryan.
Sure.
So you cue the beginning of this book, and he's trying to see what he looks like in the mirror. And apparently he doesn't like what he sees because he immediately breaks the mirror, a la Phantom of the Opera, and covers himself with a sheet. He completely trashed his room. And his 2 brothers come running upstairs, and he's like, oh my god, how am I going to change? And somehow, it must be the amulet that lets him show, like, his true form to everybody else.
Yeah.
And
it kind of changes him back whenever he's still trying to figure out the powers early in. Yeah.
They're like, what happened, Chris? And he's like, kendo practice. I was practicing my kendo stick, right? And so he leaves. And his mom's like, where are you going? What was that racket? He's like, teenage angst. I'm like, oh, awesome. Because everybody destroys their room when they're teenagers. Maybe it was just me who didn't. I'm the weird one. And so he's walking outside, and there is a hitman sitting outside because his mother is the district attorney, and she's going after the mob. And there's a guy there that they sent to put a hit on his mom. He goes to see some homeless guy who, I'm guessing, gave him the amulet.
No, so he went to an abandoned amusement park.
This is why you don't jump in 5 issues in.
And the homeless guy was there at the abandoned amusement park and saw him change into Darkhawk originally when these 2, I think it was mobsters. It's been a little bit since I read one, but I think a couple mobsters showed up and Hobgoblin made an appearance somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he says he fights the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
He fought the Hobgoblin in here.
So he's just trying to find out more about himself, and since the guy was at the amusement park, he's trying to see if he knew anything more about it.
Okay. So, he's talking to this guy, and the guy doesn't tell him squat. And he's like, thanks a lot, guy. He skipped to the next day. Mom decides it's a good idea to take her family, because she's got a hit on her. To take her family to the museum of, it must be the Natural History Museum in New York, because all of this shit takes place in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris is with him, and he recognizes the guy who was sitting in the car outside of his house. The guy pulls the gun, he jumps on him, gets shot, and takes off after him. He uses the amulet to turn into Darkhawk. He's, like, hurt, but when he changes into Darkhawk, he's not injured. He's not bleeding. He's not injured.
Yeah, it heals him.
It heals him. And he takes off after the guy. And a portal opens. and a guy dressed exactly like him comes through the portal. Guess what his name is, guys? Guess what his name is?
Portal.
Blackhawk.
Blackhawk Deuce.
They didn't have the rights to that.
Shadowhawk.
Shadowhawk.
That'd be fantastic.
Starhawk. What was it?
Yeah.
What was it I kept calling it? Starhawk? Yeah, Starhawk is what I kept calling it.
Wasn't that the Matthew Broderick film? No, that was...
that was Lady Hawk.
Lady Hawk, yeah.
Ooh. Maybe it was Lady Hawk.
Deep cut. And the guy who's dressed up as the Darkhawk starts attacking Darkhawk, and he thinks he's the one who annihilated everyone, I guess, and he's on his way back to try to find him and kill him or something. Been a while. It's been a week since I've read this one. I read it right away when I picked it up. And they fight, and the guy tries to suck Darkhawk into the portal. And I'm like, perfect. We're going to another dimension and stuff like that. And I'm like, damn it, Darkhawk used his claw to come out, pull himself out of the portal. What?
The Palladium books ad.
The riffs? I just noticed that. I didn't even... There's an advert in here for everybody's favorite game system, Palladium.
They were all over Marvel Comics. They have like so many ads in there.
If you've listened to the other shows, we used to do a show that used Palladium. So Arn, they got your favorite battle system in here. And then they're fighting, and this is where he gets sucked into the portal and uses his claw. I want some of these t-shirts though.
Yeah, some of the
There were some
vintage
really
ones.
cool shirts back then.
The Weapon X, and it looks like a Silver Surfer, Team Earth, and then a Ghost Rider one. I'm like, I want one of these. These were pretty sweet. And so Darkhawk basically takes out Portal, like beats the holy hell out of him, and then he goes back to trying to get the Hitman. It's like, oh my god, the Hitman's like running like a little bitch, and he catches him and then lets him go. So he can go tell his bosses that he's coming for him. And he turns back into Chris, and he's injured again. And Mom's in his room saying maybe it wasn't such a good idea to go to the museum. And he's like, no shit, Mom. Right? That's what I'd be saying. That's not what he really says. And
So why are the guardsmen there?
to take the other...
To take Portal back to the...
Yeah, to take Portal to the...
It's not the raft yet.
It's Portal to the
not the pit. It's
the vault.
It's the vault. Yeah, right.
And cut to the house, and Chris is recuperating. They got a guard outside, but the mob still has a way to get to his mom, and he promises to take them down.
Yeah, so the reason the dad's not in the picture is because he was deemed a dirty cop because of the mob.
Oh.
And they think he's dead.
Okay.
And so...
You're making a good case for me to want to go pick up. How many books are in this run? If you say 200, I'm not
38 and 3 annual... No. 50. 50, yeah. 50 exactly, 3 annuals.
Okay, I think I can do 50, but I gotta wait till I get some other shit done.
And I think they made a special 51, didn't they?
Yeah, they just recently made a 51.
Mm-hmm.
Is it expensive?
The 51, no. You could. I mean, that came out in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, number one's going for about $20. The rest of them aren't all that expensive.
Okay.
Some of the last issues, just like anything else, the print runs lower on it, and they're hard to track down.
Harder to track down.
You can get number one at Ground Zero for $5.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, I can spend $5. I can pay $5
Because I had almost the complete run, and then I realized I don't have number one, and they released a Darkhawk action figure with the Guardians of the Galaxy action figures, and everybody's like, oh, Darkhawk's going to be in there. So speculators jumped out and bought all the Darkhawk ones. And now there's like this underground Darkhawk number one collectors group on Facebook where everybody keeps jokingly saying, now I'm a part of the club, and I can retire now. It's never going to happen.
No.
And had I known you were going to be into it, I would have kept my second edition that I had. And
I didn't think I was actually going to... I just picked it up because I liked that it had another guy dressed up as Darkhawk on it. That's why I picked it up.
So it's cool, right? So the guardsmen also guard a place called Project Pegasus.
Okay.
And Darkhawk takes over being the head of security from Wendell Vaughn, who was Quasar, who was chief of security at Project Pegasus. And in the Captain Marvel movie,
It's Project Pegasus.
they go to Project Pegasus.
Yep. I was like, that sounds familiar.
Yep.
Okay.
So Project Pegasus has a big thing in Marvel.
Yeah,
So
I dug all the books I read. The two X-Men I'd read, like, that was like my 5th or 6th time reading them, because I really like those 2 books. Even though you kind of were like, why didn't you just do this? And I'm like, because Chris Claremont didn't want to write it
that's
that
what
way.
I do.
If you want to track him down, I would support that completely. But honestly, you could get by with reading 1 through 25
Okay.
because then it kind of jumps the shark. So
it gets weird.
Okay, so 1 through 25 is kind of like Avengers. Don't read until Vision comes.
Yeah, don't read until Vision comes.
Those are mine, guys. I really enjoyed all the books I read this week. Who wants to go next?
I'm going to do it. Ryan's got a stack.
Okay.
So I'm going to do mine next, and then we'll let Ryan take the next 2 hours to talk about his books.
All right, Nick, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I have tried to read Quasar again. I tried to read him back when I picked up Marvel Fanfare #1, where they go back to the Savage Land, and it's got Spider-Man and the X-Men and Quasar, and Spider-Man becomes that giant 4-armed spider.
right.
So I was like, oh, he seems kind of interesting. Let me pick up some of the books. So I picked up like issues 1 through 12 of the original run and couldn't stand it. I like the creatures in the Savage Land, like all the different kind of humans and like the mutants and stuff, and that was pretty cool. Quasar, probably the most boring character that they could ever think of.
He's in X-Men 274.
He's horrible.
He is horrible.
At least Shauna is actually somewhat kind of cool. Maybe it's the bikini. Who knows? Okay, so I read Quasar #14 just recently. I found him for $1. I was like, I'll give it a shot. I mean, it's got Claw in it. How bad can this be? Not only does his pants look like they're on fire in the cover, like he's got some hot pants on, because his pants are actually on fire. So this story is about, let's see who wrote it first.
It's about too long.
Yeah. Doug Mensch wrote it, and Larry Hama drew it. So how can this be bad, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Doug
there's
Mensch does
two
a really decent
legendary
job, yeah.
comic creators.
Isn't everybody allowed to have a dud?
Yeah. This one is a complete dud. So Quasar decides he needs to leave the Savage Land and go back to Manhattan. Or no, actually he goes to London, because that's where he's from. He goes there, and it is just like the Greystoke movie, where he comes back, and Tarzan comes back, and then he's like, all the newspapers are like, oh, what's it like running around the jungle in your underwear, you know? Pretty much. Long story short, Claw shows up. Claw wants the vibranium that he's bringing in to test. Little does Claw know that Quasar somehow changed the vibranium into a belt buckle, so every time Claw would try to shoot him, it would just absorb.
Belt buckle.
Belt buckle.
Okay.
So he fights Claw, rips his sonic cannon off his arm, and he runs away into a giant spaceship. The end. Yeah, that is Quasar, and I probably will try to read him again in another 20 years. Maybe.
I'll remind you.
Right? Thank you.
When you say, oh, I want to read some Quasar, we'll be like, don't do it. Run away. Run as fast as you can.
So, yeah, I think the best part about this comic is the ads that are in it, because they're so 1976 Marvel. There's like...
Boom!
Yeah, Foom and Crazy Magazine. I love Crazy Magazine. It had like Teen Hulk in it. It had Howard the Duck. It had Obnoxio the Clown. Spider-Man vitamins. Who remembers Spider-Man vitamins? I can still taste them. They tasted like chalk with a little bit of strawberry in them.
If it helps, the Smurf ones did too.
Yep.
Next
Next one I read was the Enemy Ace War. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons.
TSR.
Yep.
Dungeons and Dragons.
So the next one I read was one of my favorite books of all time, Enemy Ace War Idol by George Pratt. He's an amazing painter, and every page in here is a beautiful painting. I found an original art from him from a page that's in this, and it's $850.
Wow.
Just one page on Bristol. It's a photo collage, $850.
Jesus.
This story is really sad. It's about Hans von Hammer, who is taken off of the Red Baron. So he's in World War I German pilot, pretty much just rules the skies. In this story, he's in a sanatorium in Germany, and he's dying. And he is asked if he can do an interview for a newspaper. And the guy never really introduces himself. He never introduces what magazine he's from or what newspaper he's from. And so Von Hammer is going through a typical dogfight scenario over the skies of, I think, France. He gets shot down. He lands in the middle of a firefight. So he's right in the middle between the trenches. He has to hide underneath like a whole bunch of dead bodies. And then he starts talking to the guy that's interviewing him, and he's like, "No, you're not a journalist. You're a soldier. You sit like a soldier. You talk like a soldier. You have a story. Tell me your story." And he's like, so it's this book about two soldiers from different eras and from different sides finding common ground and how to live with the brutal things that they had to do. It's super sad, right?
Awesome.
The guy is from Vietnam. He was a tunnel rat, and to survive an ambush in the tunnels, he grabbed his friend and used him as a human shield. And he was like, I don't know how he survived so long. He got shot like 20 times, and he finally died in my arms. And then it was just like, I couldn't imagine.
Wow.
And he was like talking about how he had to fight his way through. He had to bury his way up through a mass grave to get out.
Ugh.
And
no thanks.
There's a scene in here where I think they made it like urban legend, but I think when I was growing up, it was a true story that on Christmas Day, the soldiers gave up their arms,
Yep.
left their trenches, and sang songs to each other, talked to each other, gave each other's addresses, so they could meet up after the war.
Yeah, that's true. They're trying to make it an urban legend.
Yeah, they're saying it never happened.
That's
it's just how we do things now.
Yeah, because we couldn't possibly sit and talk to our enemy.
And he's talking about how it's different because he was in the clouds fighting a war a different way. Like, he didn't ever experience the brutality of war. He just saw a machine shoot that machine down.
Yeah.
Right? But now he finally sees like their faces,
Yeah.
like what happens when they're on the ground. And they both have to come to terms of how to live their life after that. Von Hammer says, after World War I and after World War II, the only thing that brought me peace was flying. You have to go and find what helps you live through this. And then the last couple panels, he's looking up at a bird. The reporter soldier realizes that he's dead, that he's just died peacefully looking at things flying. It's just super sad.
Sounds really good, though.
It's beautifully painted. It's haunting. It's just chaotic and weird and
shows like an actual side to the war that we were never taught.
No, we're taught an overview of what happened in World War I.
We never
our history books had World War I as like maybe 10 pages, maybe. It was super confusing because I think our teachers don't understand how confusing World War I was, how it started, why it started, and I think that's why it never got taught.
Yeah.
Okay, now for something lighthearted.
Way to bring the mood down, Nick.
I found one of my holy grails of comic books this weekend. I want She-Hulk number 19, but I found issue 20, which is the second appearance of Nosferatu, the She-Bat. She's a knockoff of Batman, of course.
Makes sense. The opening makes sense now.
This one is by Steve Gerber and Brian Hitch. This book is crazy. Let's just set the mood. So, it's not Gotham. It's Visigoth, Massachusetts. It's not Arkham Asylum. It's Dorkham Asylum. And it's run by a guy named John Sirius, he's the Joker. His name is
John Sirius.
His name is Jack Sirius. That's what he became after he had his accident.
Why so serious?
So, the thing is, he's the total opposite of the Joker. He doesn't want to laugh. He wants to quelch any kind of laughter in the town. He thinks that everybody should be super serious all the time. Let's get a list of all the characters that are in this. So there's Jack Sirius, there's Three-Face, there's Professor Hugo Odd, Big Al Ghul, Slimeface, Dog Woman, and instead of Bruce Wayne, her name is Purple Haze. Her parents were hippies. They were psychologists, and they were like the freewheeling psychologists, right? There's Frida, who's Alfred in this. She has a lot, like in her attic, instead of the Batcave, it's the Nosferatic. She's got a Nosferatu.
That's her car.
And she has a Nosferaturang instead of a Batarang. So this book, pretty much, She-Hulk is in town in Visigoth, and she got some kind of summons to go there, right? And she's in her hotel room. She didn't order room service, but in comes room service, and of course, she's mostly naked, because that's what She-Hulk is. Ends up being Tri-Face. He doses her with a serious gas instead of a Joker gas, and she passes out, of course.
She's not drawn like a bodybuilder in this one.
No, she's more sexualized in these old ones.
That's my She-Hulk.
Yep. It's kind of weird. Okay, so Nosferatu, or Purple Haze, hears about something that happens in her hotel, right? Like, She-Hulk got captured by a bunch of lunatics. She goes and investigates in her Nosferatic. What's weird is she looks exactly like the girl who's going to play Batwoman in the TV show, right? She looks just like Ruby Rose.
Yeah.
Right?
It.
Just exactly like her with the shaved hair. It's weird how much she looks like her. I don't think I'm doing this book justice. So what's weird is, if you knew at the time, Solomon Rushdie just put out the Satanic Verses, right? So there's a crazy guy in here named Big Al Ghul, who is looking to do nothing but kill Rushdie. Through the whole thing, that's all he does. He's like, oh, she's Rushdie. I'm going to kill Rushdie. Rushdie.
That's funny.
It's just Nosferatu shows up. She fights the guys. There's a lot of quotes from the Batman movie in here, like the one that we did in the beginning of the movie. And what's weird is, like, Nosferatu later on becomes a member of the Avengers. She's in the
Great Lakes
Civil War.
Avengers?
No, in Civil War, they recruit her as one of the reserve members.
Oh yeah.
So there's a Batman type woman running around in the Avengers somewhere.
Okay. I like that. The Great Lakes Avengers.
It's the thing.
I know it is.
It's
I know
great
it is.
too. Ooh.
What's that one got?
That is the Mage Stones games from Dungeons and Dragons. The Raceland. Again, never remember how to say that guy's name, but I think if you go out and read it, it's really funny. It's by Steve Gerber. Of course, it's funny.
Creator of Howard the Duck.
Yep. And I'm not going to do it
Destroyer
justice.
Duck.
You can't really do it justice when you're just talking about it.
So you
but
just got to read it.
yeah, you just got to read it.
All right. And now, everybody's favorite host, Ryan. What do you got?
So I read a few things this week.
How many books did you read this week?
35.
Show off.
Well, you'll understand why in a few minutes. Kirk is constantly saying he goes to Half Price Books. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go check out Half Price Books. I don't go to Half Price Books very often. I'm going to go check it out. And I ran across a book called Judgment Day by Lightning Comics. This apparently is a publishing company from the 90s that I've never heard of. And it has the nice foil-orific front cover from the 90s. And the book itself was not great.
No?
Just going to be honest. It looks like a complete knockoff of the Image stuff.
They spent a whole bunch of money on the cover, huh?
Well, this is spinning off of a different series that they do. And so you really didn't have a clue what was actually happening because they're talking about the other series, but you didn't read the other series to know who they were, kind of thing. But there is one thing in here I thought was really cool and makes me want to chase these down now, is they put a letter in here why Lightning Comics is different. Lightning Comics will never print more than 250,000 copies of any of its first printings. This will ensure that all our titles will be in great demand. It's been proven over and over, and everyone has the same book. How can it be worth anything at all? They will never reprint any issue until 2 years after the date of the first printing. So if you miss it, you have to track down a secondhand copy. They have all their own creative rights, blah, blah, blah. They work exclusively with Lightning Comics, so there's no worry about them running off and joining a different company. And all their superheroes are original. Now, the part I thought was really interesting about that was 250,000 copies. This is the first one I've ever run across. Now, it started off as a superhero company. I did some research on it. I never did find out when it actually ended. But years later, they kind of started doing nude covers. Kind of like how some of the companies are doing it now. But they were one of the original ones to start doing it. I'm probably going to track them down just because I think they're going to be fun to try to find. However, I recommend you don't read this.
All right.
I just like searching. Next one is Maryland Manor. This came out this last week. This is, from what I'm gathering, Ronald Reagan's daughter who decides to have a party in the White House. And her best friend, they used a Ouija board and got possessed by Abraham Lincoln, apparently. And so they now named her Abe. And they found a secret pathway into the White House. The president's gone. They didn't take her along, and she was pissed off about it. So she hit James Monroe's statue or something like that. The head turned, the door opens up, and they found a secret pathway. She's like, we're going to throw this gigantic raging party at the White House. So that's kind of where it goes. A lot of 80s references in this. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to pick up the next issue to see how it is, and hopefully it continues on with it, but there wasn't a whole lot of development of any of the characters quite yet, but the idea of it's kind of fun. So in that secret hallway, they found a room, and in the room is a picture of JFK and Marilyn Monroe together. So they're thrown back to that a little bit. It was a love dungeon, apparently. It, like I said, this just came out. It's by IDW. It definitely needs to be checked out. At least once. Then,
How is it?
Kanto?
Yep.
So another IDW book that came out this week. This is kind of like that it's a little bit of a knockoff of like Wizard of Oz. These creatures are slaves, and their hearts have been taken out and replaced with clocks.
Yep.
And none of them are named except for Kanto. And even though he has a heart clock thing and not a real heart, he has fallen in love with one of the other creatures. And the slavers are like, how'd you get that name? And the girl creature shows up and goes, well, I gave it to him. They attack her. They injure her really badly. And she looked like she was dead. The slavers took off. They're like, go bury her. He takes her to their healer. And they're like, the only way you're going to be able to fix her is she's got to have her heart back. So you have to go see this grand wizard, essentially, in the outside world. And so Kanto is now going to go out and try to find this wizard. It was a slow read. However, again, there's just enough there that has me interested, and I'll definitely at least try the next couple issues and see where it goes. Yeah, like I said, it was a slow start to it, but you could actually see where it's going to go and do something. It's well worth checking out. Brave and the Bold presents Batman and Green Lantern, number 134. I found all the Brave and the Bolds with Green Lantern on them and bought them for $1. Turn that down. This was interesting. Green Lantern goes over to West Germany, I believe, and is defecting because was it East Germany was the bad side? Mm-hmm. Okay, so he defects over to East Germany, excuse me. And he's defecting because nobody respects him. So he's going over and he meets with this general, and the general knew he was coming, and because of his people on the other side that are monitoring all this stuff, so he's getting all this intel. And he doesn't think Green Lantern's actually selling it, so he takes his ring, and now he's just a guy, and they start hazing him, essentially, trying to see if he's going to break and actually still be the good guy that he is. In the meantime, the U.S. sends Batman over to save Green Lantern. And Batman lands and is immediately caught because the intel told him that he was coming over there. So they start torturing him, Batman that is, and making Green Lantern watch. And they're talking about the torturing as demolishment. So through the whole thing, there's this big torture that they're supposed to do. And so they're torturing Batman. They get in, try to drug him up, and the drugs don't work on him because he's made himself immune to things like Scarecrow's stuff. And Green Lantern's sitting there just watching.
Or is he a mutant?
And then they put him in a tank where they blindfold him and make him completely weightless. And they turn off all the sound, and trying to drive him insane with complete isolation. He makes it through that. And then the final thing they were going to do, they put him in a big spinning wheel showing images. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Clockwork Orange when they were showing him all those images. And they're like, now we're going to do the demolishment of you. And Batman's like, no, please don't. I've had enough. I can't make it through. And Green Lantern's like, okay, yeah, don't do it. Yeah, I'm the bad guy. And, or I'm the good guy. I was faking this whole thing to find out what's going on. And the general gives Batman a gun and goes, all right, kill Green Lantern. So Batman fires a gun. It's a blank gun, right? And so Green Lantern's kind of going over everything that's taking place and how it was all a ploy to get Batman over there to get information, and Green Lantern's supposed to be getting the information, and they go to his office and he finds the ring. It was hidden in a coffee maker, and he calls the ring to himself and flies out of there with Batman and takes off. Well, the trip of it is at the end of it, the whole purpose was to get Batman over there and actually take this demolishment because they heard about it and they wanted to see what it was so they could prepare the soldiers for it. And the demolishment was not anything. It was just messing with them that whole time, all those three things. There was nothing else there. It was just an open door to the outside. So it was their way of trying to brainwash Batman, I guess. It was a lot of fun for $1. Yeah. And then I finally got around to reading some Free Comic Book Day stuff.
Is it 3 months?
2 months.
2 months.
2 months. But that's okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read anything I got from Free Comic Book Day yet.
And the Free Comic Book Day stuff I like about it is because it's just usually a really tiny story trying to get you interested in the character. I did Vampirella, and it did nothing to make me want to buy this book. They can't do her right.
She's up there with Kazar for me. Like, I always give her a shot, but they just never get it. I just never get it.
This one is the premise that she became kind of like a supermodel. Somebody took a picture of her being a vampire, and now everybody's trying to dress like her and act like her and all that. It wasn't good. Just avoid it. Read Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor. It was a little one-shot. That was a lot of fun. They end up going to an amusement park, and they're playing, one of her sidekick plays this game, and if you lose the game, or if you win, you win the game, you get a prize, kind of like an amusement park. But if you lose, you get shrinking down and you become one of the prizes. So Doctor Who plays the game and uses her sonic screwdriver and saves the day. I thought it did a good job voicing the characters and made me interested enough to maybe check out Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor. Ghost Hog? I don't know what I read.
I thought he was going to go Ghost Hog, and no. Then just put it down.
The title says Ghost Hog, but when you're reading it, he's just walking around, and apparently a deer dies in this hole, wanting this apple, and this ghost of a deer is yelling at him, saying, I want this apple. So Ghost Hog turns into a ghost, goes up and gets him an apple, and the deer's like, oh, that's not the apple I wanted. And he goes, yeah, but this is the one you have now, so be happy. So I guess there's a good moral to the story.
Be happy with what you have?
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't get the characters. Read at your own risk. There's one called A Sheets Story. This takes place on Mother's Day, and they're going to see the grandmother. The mother passed away, apparently, and they're doing some sewing. The grandmother does sewing and stuff, just like her mother did. Or the daughter's mother does. And the daughter's sitting there, and she brought this sheet for whatever reason. Well, she's a kind of a loner, doesn't want to do anything with her grandma, and when she's by herself, the sheet comes alive. It's a ghost. And she builds this relationship up with this ghost. And she decides she's going to do some sewing with her grandmother. Well, she went to borrow some sugar from the neighbor next door, because that's what you used to do. And her brother, in the meantime, decided he was going to do some sewing, grabbed that sheet, and put stitches on it and everything else. And now the ghost considers himself having tattoos, because he's got different patches on him. This is an actual trade, so it's just like a piece of the story. I might actually check this out. I thought it was pretty good. And that one's by a company called Caracal. Gilbert. This one is by Art Baltzer. He did the Teen Titans Go and a bunch of other kids' books.
Patrick the Wolf Boy.
Patrick with the Wolf Boy. So the characters were exactly what I was expecting. I love reading his stuff. The story itself didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So there's this like little water dinosaur thing that hangs out with turtles and a pearl, and his sister's a gigantic squid, and they're celebrating the start of Everything Day. And they have to go see Hocus Pocus to find out what their itinerary is. So they go to see Hocus Pocus about their itinerary and are talking to an old crowd, essentially, to find out what the itinerary is. And that's where it leaves off at. Now, the part I'm trying to understand is it starts off with somebody throwing a bunch of bottles with notes in the water. but they never explain any of it. So I guess you have to read the next issue to understand what the notes are. I don't know. But it's kind of fun to check out. The best book I read is Blastosaurus. This was so funny. It is I don't think he's a detective, but he's a dinosaur that just goes and beats up bad guys.
Okay.
This whole book is about they're giving Blastosaurus a surprise party, thanking him for saving Freak City so much. And so it's different people telling their Blastosaurus stories. In the first story, there's I think 3 or 4 of them. The first story is about a security guard that is a security guard at a blood bank, and the swamp pyres are coming to rob the blood bank. So they're a bunch of hillbilly vampires that are coming to rob the blood bank.
Y'all give me your blood right now. I'm going to suck y'all's blood. They're from Kansas too, right?
And the security guard realizes the cops aren't going to do anything, so he calls Blastosaurus to come save the day. And he comes in, and he says, "You see, this is a mistake you're making. You're assuming I didn't come prepared, but I have garlic. And this blood bank has a ceiling fan." And he throws the garlic up into the ceiling fan, and it kills most of the vampires.
How do you know those vampires aren't good guys?
They're robbing the blood bank.
Could just be hungry.
Could they be hungry? You know?
Maybe they're taking back to their vamp babies.
Yeah. God, nobody ever thinks about the feelings of the vampire.
And then there's these 2 characters. I'm assuming there's Blastosaurus' sidekicks. And the one guy keeps on talking about this gigantic lobster that is mutating. And the gal's like, "No, this doesn't exist, so stop." There is a funny ad in here. It says, "Blastosaurus knows, N-O-S-E, that's not cool. Just because your friends pick his nose doesn't mean you have to be the bigger man, not the booger man." And they show a kid picking his nose. I thought that was kind of fun. The next story is called In Skid Marks in the Sky. Apparently there's this guy that is just farting all over the place and nobody can breathe. And Blastosaurus goes in to save Rebecca because it's kind of like, how in fires, everybody's supposed to get out. And they're like, "Did everybody get out?" And they're like, "No, Rebecca's still in there." And so Blastosaurus goes in to save Rebecca, and come to find out Rebecca is a robot that does not work. But he survives. And kids going on about the lobster again. And then the third story is about a guy who was cutting up potatoes, and there's a bad potato in the sack. And I heard that one bad apple could spoil the bunch, but I didn't know if that was also applied to potatoes. So in the morning, I'm going to call my mom and find out. So he goes to bed. Well, this bad potato is sitting there and takes over the guy. And he doesn't know what the difference between right or wrong is. He's just doing... the potato only knows what good and bad is, not what right and wrong is. So he's making this guy do graffiti. He says potatoes rule, humans drool. He moons a barbershop, and Blastosaurus sees it, puts a bag over his head, and takes him back to his apartment, takes care of the potato, and says, "Hey, next time, just get rid of the bad food." So, getting back to the party part of it, Blastosaurus receives a note that says, "Meet us at Freakout City, the aquatic rec center." And on the sign, it's supposed to be a big surprise. On the sign, it says, "Tonight, pool closed for Blastosaurus' surprise party. Shh." And Blastosaurus sees it. He goes in, acts all surprised, and he's happy that he's been able to help Freakout City. And he ends by saying, "I'd say it's going pretty well so far, but this is Freakout City. Things can change," as a gigantic lobster breaks into the party. This was hilarious. Don't know the last time I enjoyed reading a book as much as I enjoyed reading this. And it's pretty kid-friendly. I don't know who the publisher is off Golden Apple Comics, so finding these could be a little bit difficult. But if you find them, pick them up if you just want to have a good read and have some fun.
Cool.
Cool.
This is it, guys. Final one.
What? One more.
So this is book 3, Batman the Damned, by Azzarello and Bermoa. I'm guessing that's correct.
Bermejo?
Sure. And I wasn't even going to do this one, but what I liked about it is, so here at the the overview of it's trapped in a nightmarish reflection of Gotham City. Batman will have to turn to John Constantine, Deadman, Swamp Thing, and Zatanna in order to escape the evil forces that stalk the infernal city with both his sanity and soul intact. And it starts off where Batman is actually in a coffin.
That's beautiful.
It's absolutely gorgeous work. And he's starting to panic a little bit, and something breaks in through the coffin, and we find out it's Swamp Thing. Just larger than life. This is how I picture Swamp Thing. It's not the I'm standing like a normal human being Swamp Thing type deal. And Swamp Thing and Constantine kind of get into it, and if you know what the Weeping Angels are from Doctor Who, the statues that come to life, they kind of have these Weeping Angel kind of things attacking them, and so the three of them fight them off, and Constantine tells them that, okay, we need to go see Zatanna, so they go to see Zatanna. Well, somehow it's in his mind, I guess. Bruce is going back, or Batman goes back to when he was a child, and they relive the part where he's walking down the alleyway with his parents, and he sees this creature that's kind of taken over his mind. And Bruce runs off down the alleyway, and that's how his parents turned down that alleyway and got killed. So he was chasing after this creature, and his parents got killed in this alleyway. And so they go see this Zatanna, and it looks like even Mr. E is in it. I think that's who that's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking to her about getting some help. Deadman shows up and possesses a guy, and then apparently turns into a rat. And so Constantine tells Zatanna, hey, you got to do this. And Batman's like, are you threatening Zatanna? And all of a sudden this ghost comes off of Zatanna, and it turns out to be him as a kid. And he starts getting attacked by this creature again. He's reliving the childhood where his parents die. He's realizing he's kind of battling his inner demons, I guess is what this is getting at. And the rat bites this demon, and Constantine then shoots Bruce. Not Batman, but Bruce as a child, because they have to kill that particular reliving of his childhood. And the whole thing is, so like in the first couple issues, it starts off with the Joker falling off of a bridge and dying, and Batman thinks he's the one that killed him. And it kind of leads back into going back into that story, and Batman's starting to rethink about it and realizes the Joker actually didn't die. He didn't kill him. So all this mental anguish he went through was unnecessary. And it ends with the Joker just laughing. And now I heard this was only a 3-part series, but the back of it does say it's a bi-monthly supernatural horror story. So hopefully there's more coming. The first issue is kind of hard to get. Probably not as much as it used to be, because there's a part where Batman's walking around naked and you can see the Batwang, is what they call it.
The Batawang?
The Batawang. And for whatever reason kind of blew up, and after the first week it was like already $90.
Jesus.
But I think it's dropped down in price quite a bit. But this has been a really enjoyable read. If it comes out in trade, check it out. It's not for young kids by any means, but this has been really enjoyable. Definitely check it out.
Awesome.
That's all I got.
So we're going to go into our next segment. It's going to be called the It's Too Wordy Top 10 list. This week, we're doing the top 10 sidekicks in comics because we discussed Captain America today. I'll go first. My number 10 is Woodstock.
Snoopy Woodstock?
Yep, because
Okay.
he was Snoopy's ride or die.
All right.
And then War Machine, Foggy Nelson, Jubilee. She was better with Wolverine than by herself.
She dressed like Robin.
Yep. Dum Dum Dugan, Batgirl, Speedy, Falcon, Bucky, and Robin. Dick Grayson.
Good
Nice.
list.
Dick Grayson. These are all ones that I've read. So,
Speedy. Is that the shooting up drugs, Speedy?
well, I did read Hard Traveling Heroes.
He's a good sidekick. No. He just caused more trouble than it was worth.
Yeah.
Alright, so mine, number 10, is Shauna the She-Devil. She's the better part of Kazar. She's the only interesting part of the Savage Land. Number 9 is Tim from the Black Terror comics back in the day.
Okay.
That was his name. They just called him Tim.
That's what they called him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He dressed like the Black Terror and everything. Just
So-
called him Tim.
That's the guy's name in our logo. Is Tim.
It's Tim.
Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy.
Just Tim.
Not the Terror Kid or
Yeah.
nothing. Little Terror. Nothing. Just Tim. Then we got Frankie from The Goon. If you ever read The Goon, he's awesome. He's really funny. Number 7 is Wong from Doctor Strange.
I was going to put him in mine.
Yeah.
But I figured you might.
Yeah. I was like, maybe Wong.
Yeah.
He's been around him for forever, you know?
Yeah.
Number 6 is Foggy Nelson. Number 4 is Bucky. Number 4 is Robin. Dick Grayson, not the other 3, because he grew up to be Nightwing. The best, huh? Is there 4?
You said
No,
4, and then you said number 4.
No.
Okay.
No,
He's
with
number
Robin.
1.
Actually, there's 5 of them if you count Carrie from the Dark Knight
never mind.
Returns.
Right.
But
So, yeah.
Stephanie Brown.
Stephanie Brown. Yeah. Okay. 4 now. Soon, probably like 6 coming up pretty soon. Because Damian Wayne's going to have a kid probably sometime soon because they're going to push his age up a little bit. And he's going to have a kid. And Batman's going to be a grandpa. And then he's going to be the new Robin.
That's exactly why I picked Dick Grayson as for Robin, too.
And Dick Grayson was the best replacement for Batman at the time. Ever.
Yeah,
I actually like the Batman and Robin comic that Grant Morrison wrote with Dick Grayson as Batman was actually more interesting than any of the Batman comics I've read in a long time.
Oh, no, I love that he took over the Batman role. Yeah.
It was great. Professor Pig, super creepy. Like, Jesus. Number 3 is Jimmy Olsen. Number 2 is Batgirl. And number 1 is the professional sidekick of all Marvel, Rick Jones. He was a Hulk. He was a Bucky. He was Captain Marvel. Without Rick Jones, there wouldn't be a Hulk.
Yeah.
There would probably... Oh, and he created the Avengers. Because he called them all together.
I thought Nick Fury created the Avengers.
No, that was some kid on his radio calling for help. So, if it wasn't for Rick Jones, you'd have no Avengers.
That's a good list.
I like that list.
And now he's dead. And nobody cared.
I care.
No, you don't.
I didn't even know who he was until recently.
And he had sweet hair on the old Incredible Hulk cartoon.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
All right. My 10th is Rick Jones.
Very nice. Somebody cares.
9, Wendy and Marvin from the Super Friends.
Okay.
8, Robin, Tim Drake. I think he's probably the best detective out of all of them.
And I like him as Red Robin.
Yeah. 7, Kid Flash or Wally West. 6, Lockheed. 5, Foggy Nelson. 4, Speedy. 2, Bob, Agent of Hydra.
Okay, yeah.
1, Nort.
What? He's your number 1? He's not a psychic, man. He could carry his own book. No, he couldn't.
No, he couldn't. He played off Guy Gardner so well. I know I give you crap about Nort, but he plays off of Guy Gardner so well.
Yeah. And he's got that giant ring.
Yeah.
Like the size of a dog's paw.
That was the only one I was positive about putting on that list.
Yeah? Nort. All right. That's great. It's very different lists. Except for we had some...
We had Foggy.
Foggy.
I think we all had... Did you have Speedy?
He didn't have Speedy.
But we all had a Robin.
But
yeah, we had a Robin.
We had Dick Grayson and you had Tim Drake. So
yeah.
These are fun. I like doing these.
Did I say Stephanie Brown?
No.
I must have been off someplace. So I said Speedy, then I went Stephanie Brown, and then it's Bob, the Agent of Hydra.
I didn't even think about Lockheed. It's like...
Lord. I like... Stephanie Brown is underutilized. She's spoiler.
Yeah.
In that whole Heroes Crisis or whatever it was that I was really high on, and then it was Wally West that did it all. There's actually a joke in there where they're talking to Nightwing, Damian, Red Robin, or not Tim Drake, and Jason Todd. So they're talking to all the former or the Robins. And then they show a panel of spoiler, and they go, "Did they talk about me?" Because they're all comparing to each other, but they didn't even talk about Stephanie Brown, who was Robin at one point for like 3 issues. And yeah,
very funny. Nobody remembers me. I wore a suit for 3 days.
So big weekend in Omaha this last weekend. We had OCon, which is Omaha's comic convention, which is held in Iowa.
Yeah, it's in Council Bluffs, but it's the Comic-Con.
And then we had the Midwest Comic-Con.
It would be cooler if it was the CBCC.
CBCC, that'd be great.
Not the OCC. Are you down with OCC? Yeah,
you know me.
Uh,
So I went to the OCon. You guys went to the Midwest Con. I wanted to go to the Midwest Con. Midwest Con comes around a little more frequently, but usually about once every 4 months or so. So I'll start with the OCon real quick, and you want to guys give a review of what you kind of got at yours?
Sure.
All right. So with the OCon, wasn't planning on going. Decided to take the kids over at the last minute, and they had quite a few comic book dealers there, and I ended up spending a little bit of money. At one dealer, I ended up purchasing the whole run of the Pirates of Darkwater from the old cartoon.
Nice. Yeah,
it's 9 issues. I'm like, okay, $1 a piece. Picked up quite a bit of the Brave and the Bold with the Green Lanterns on it. Picked up Blade Runner, the comic adaptation of it. So I picked up a few things there. Picked up there's a podcast called Make Eternia Great Again, and they did a comic book with a bunch of other people using He-Man characters, and they gave them out for free because they don't have any rights to the characters, and it was hilarious. They actually made a live action, or not a live action, but a action YouTube of the book. They were reading it through the panels and
like
everything.
A motion comic.
Yeah, motion comic. I think they did a fantastic job with that, so I picked that up. That was a lot of fun. Picked up a couple of Green Lantern books that were newsstand variants opposed to the standard variant, just because they were $1 a piece. Okay, sure. But the big get for me is, I don't know if you guys know, I'm a Green Lantern fan.
What?
Shocking.
Guy Gardner, right?
Absolutely not.
It's Aricia.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Grog.
Yeah.
Grog.
But
Abraxas or whatever her name was.
But my whole goal is try to get first appearance of Hal Jordan, which is Showcase 22, all the way through to current. So this was from like the 1960s forward. And I've managed to get it down to 3 issues. Got down to Showcase 22 in issues 3 and 4 of the 1960s Green Lantern run. And the thing about my collection with Green Lantern is I refuse to buy online Green Lantern. I have to find them myself. And I happened to stumble across Green Lantern number 4 at the show and picked it up. So now I have just missing 3 from the Green Lantern 60s run and missing Showcase 22, which I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to get. But it's out there as a goal. So pretty solid show for me.
Cool.
And you guys had a lot of fun. You got to dig through the
this was my first time going.
boxes.
It was my first time going, so it was pretty fun hunting through everything. I didn't bring my list like Nick. I didn't bring my stack, but we're at Nick's house, so it makes sense that he would have his stack here.
Yeah, I just got done doing my inventory of my comics, so I knew exactly which ones I needed to get. Because I'm not going to buy the same thing over again.
I picked up a lot of West Coast Avengers. Picked up Wonder Man number 1. It's got that sweet poster in it. I'm trying to decide to take if I want to take the poster out and hang it, or...
So, think about it like the comic cost you 50 cents.
Yep.
So, what's it worth to you? 50 cents.
50 cents.
So
I could take it out.
Yeah.
So, real quickly, so there's a guy that's at this con that has just hundreds of boxes of comics.
Yeah, I think it was like probably about 70 long boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Had to have been something like that.
Yeah.
So
we went through all of them.
I walked in, right? And I just start looking at long boxes, and I'm like, this ain't no 10 for $5. It was like, I didn't go to the right section. And I see where Nick's standing, and I'm like, I go over there, and I'm like, oh, here they are. And I start going to those.
50 of them for $20.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ended up getting like 40 of them, I think. And I picked up Robin 2, Joker's Wild, number 1.
Which cover did you get? Was it the 3D cover? Was it the standard cover? Was it the variant cover?
I think you got the foil.
It had a hologram.
The hologram cover.
It had a hologram on it.
That's a cool one.
I was like, it's 50 cents. I'll try it. You know. Nick found me a whole bunch of New Mutants. And I got the first appearance of Talisman in Alpha Flight. So, what'd you get, Nick?
Oh, okay. So, there's a funny story that I was going through. While I was looking through it, there was a lot of Warlord, right? And I kind of want to give it a shot. But it was all like issue 122, 78,
Yeah, you're telling me
56.
you don't want to go in the middle of a run.
And I was like, I kind of want to just start at the beginning.
Kazar.
But it's by Mike Grell.
Oh, that's good.
So it's a little bit Green Arrow mixed with Tarzan. So in the last box we went through, and I was just telling Kirk this, and I was like, I really want to start from the beginning. Oh. And I found DC First Issue Special number 8, which is the first appearance of Warlord.
Nice.
And it's in crap condition, but I still want to read it, because I just wanted to read it. I don't really care about the condition of this book. So I found that, and I found a What The number 4, because I've been collecting What Does, because they're not easy to find.
How many are there of that?
Like 28.
What the?
Yeah! I have one that has Spider-Ham 2099 in it.
Nice.
I may have to track that down. I'm a huge 29.99 guy.
It's Spider-Ham. And I've been on a big new universe kick, so I found...
You found a shit
I found
load.
a crap ton.
Yeah.
Right? So I actually had to put down some books that I actually wanted to buy, that I was really interested in reading, to buy new universe books.
But he didn't pick up the ones about the kickers.
No, Kickers Inc., that stays in the box.
Yeah, he put them right back right away.
See, I wanted to go down and find a whole bunch of those too. I would have picked up Kickers Inc.
Found Kitty Pryde and Wolverine number 6, which I've been eating for years. Some She-Hulks, and some random books, like Spanner's Galaxy and New Mutants Annual 1. What is it? Lords of Underrealm. I've never read it. It's by Doug Mensch.
It can't be bad.
No?
Unless it's Kazar.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe yearbook number 1, which I finally remember riding in the bus in 3rd grade, and some kid had it. And I was like, I want to read that. And he's like, you can't even touch it.
Oh.
So I had to have it just for that memory.
I also picked up some classic X-Men, and the ones I picked up, was it 6? Starts the Phoenix story, or right before the Dark Phoenix saga. So
And
I was like,
You got some arcade issues?
I got some arcade issues. Yep.
You picked up some Atari Force for me. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Because I would have bought those if I found them.
Yeah. Well, it was one of the ones that I was looking for. I was like,
They're,
Atari Force.
I was talking to the guy, and he said, this isn't even close to all my stuff. He goes, I have more down in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm like, and I found out they're going to be back in November. So I'm going to go again. I got to go again.
I might
on.
just bring $100 and just buy a short box
I'm
or a
gonna-
long box from him.
Yeah. I'm gonna bring. I'm
'Cause
gonna
this-
bring a stack of money to buy shit.
What was it? $50 for a short box?
It
Yeah.
was 50.
20 for 100,
It was.
or no, 50 comics for $20, and then it was things like short box for $50.
I thought it said 110, but it could have been $50.
I can't
I don't
remember.
know.
I don't know, but I'm going again. I'm gonna get more.
And the guys that do the rest, or the others that do that show, they usually have some really good stuff there too. It's fun to check out. I've picked up some of my Green Lantern books from there before, but yeah, going for this guy alone is well worth it.
It was fun. Just
it was
go
really
for
fun.
2 hours and just look through comics.
2 hours and just rifle through everything. He had a Spawn number 1. I was gonna ask him how much he wanted for it.
It's only worth like $20.
Yeah. So
So you could probably gotten it pretty cheap.
probably.
He's had it for a while, so you got a shot.
He had a Shadowhawk number 1 without the foil cover. It was like $20. I was like, no.
Yeah.
They still have the Scooby Doo.
I don't know. I was only looking through the books. I barely looked at the other stuff in the room.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We just as soon as I saw him at the other, I'm like, oh, here they are, and just. I just don't-
Here's your books back. I'm going over there.
Yeah. I don't need these, and I went and jumped in.
Yeah. No, he's got the right idea with it. That's for sure.
So
Yeah, I
All
mean,
right.
just like some of them are like in really good condition. You wouldn't think about it just like in a random box.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pull something out.
That's where I found some like that random stuff. If it's an off-brand, I pick it up and check it out.
He had
Never
the
know what you're
first
getting.
15 issues of Spelljammers from TSR, which was Dungeons and Dragons,
Right.
and DC put it out like first 15 issues, and I was like, I can't. I mean, I've tried reading Dungeons and Dragons comics, and I can't do it. Like the Dragonlance ones are horrible.
IDW
The
did
80
a
AD&D
pretty
ones-
decent job.
Well, yeah, but those before,
Right.
like back in the 80s,
yeah,
it
no.
was just so bad.
Before you turn the page, roll the die.
So we got anything else we want to talk about?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
What are we doing next week? Maybe we should figure that out after the air.
Off the air. So you can give us a follow at the It's Too Wordy 1 on Twitter. You can send us an email, which I did check just recently. You guys didn't have anything in there. The email address is It's Too Wordy Comic Book Podcast at yahoo.com. Give us a little bit, if you love the show, you want to hear more of it, think about throwing us a little money our way. Find us at Patreon/House BTS, or did you change that one too?
No, Patreon? Patreon's the same.
Patreon's still the same?
Yep, I can't change that.
Okay, guys.
Actually, what you could do also to help us out is like tell your friends about it. Like put it on, like if you like us on Facebook, just share our posts.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
They got rid of iTunes, so iTunes is no more.
Yep.
So yeah, have fun, read more comics, and we'll see you guys next week. It's been Kirk,
Nick,
Ryan.
Bye.
See you.
From days of long ago, from uncharted regions of the universe, comes a legend. The legend of Voltron, defender of the universe. A mighty robot, loved by good, feared by evil. As Voltron's legend grew, peace settled across the galaxy. On planet Earth, a galaxy alliance was formed. Together with the good planets of the solar system, they maintained peace throughout the universe. Until a new, horrible menace threatened the galaxy. Voltron was needed once more. This is the story of the super force of space explorers. Specially trained and sent by the Alliance to bring back Voltron, defender of the universe.
Voltron, defender of the universe.